Hi everyone, my name is Astha Jain and I am a psychologist. This is my YouTube channel where we talk everything about psychology. In today's video, we are going to talk about the myths related to suicide. We all have sometime or the other heard or thought about why people die by suicide. And in today's video, I am going to answer all the myths and all your questions. So please keep on watching. The first and the most common problem lies with our choice of words. So we all commonly say and hear people say that XYZ committed suicide. But we have to understand that just like diabetes or heart attack or cancer, suicide is actually a consequence of a long-term mental illness, and hence nobody commits suicide. Just like nobody commits a heart attack or nobody commits a cancer, people die by those illnesses, and similarly people die by suicide. So next time you hear somebody say that XYZ or ABC committed suicide, please stop them and let them know that people die by suicide. Nobody commits suicide. The second most commonly widespread myth is that weak people die by suicide. I want you to think for a second about the time when you were very young and you fell down playing and you had a small scratch on your knee. Or do you remember when you actually cut your finger and 2 drops of blood came out, and how you ran to your mother or father and asked them to put a band-aid on it or take you to a doctor? That is our life instinct. We have both instincts within us, life instinct and death instinct. Both of them are very strong, but sometimes our life instinct is actually stronger. You must have also heard that somebody who knows how to swim can never die by drowning. That is absolutely true, because if you are trying to die and if you decide to go and drown in the water but you know how to swim, at the last moment your mind is going to tell you to swim and you will. And that is how strong our life instinct is. If that is how much our life instinct is strong, then how can you think that it is a matter and an act committed by the weak that people die by suicide? When people die by suicide, they are covered in situations which their mind tells them that it is impossible to get out of that situation. They may be suffering with a lot of guilt or a lot of regret, a lot of shame, and their mind perceives that this situation is impossible to get out from, and hence the only option that they see in front of them is to end their lives. These people who are thinking of dying by suicide or actually do, they deserve our help, they deserve our empathy and not a label of stigma. Another very commonly spread myth is that somebody who had a failed attempt was actually doing nothing but trying to seek attention. This is just not true. Somebody who had a failed attempt at suicide, probably they were crying for help and not for attention. So somebody you see who had a failed attempt of suicide, they need your empathy and they need help from a mental health professional, and they do not need labels like attention seeker, because if at that time you think that they were trying to seek attention, you will end up not giving them the help that they need and they deserve. So next time you see somebody who had a failed attempt of suicide, take them to a mental health professional and do not label them as an attention seeker. It is not a cry for attention, it is a cry for help. We as mental health professionals always encourage the people to intervene if they think that the other person might be contemplating suicide. But people often say, I do not want to plant the idea of suicide. Well, this is not possible. The idea of suicide is not something which is hidden from most people, and it is an idea which is very commonly known. So clearly you or I do not have the power to plant that into somebody's head. But if somebody else is actually contemplating it and you ask them about it, there are very high chances that they might say yes. And that is the time when you actually have the power to save somebody's life. You have the power of taking that person to a mental health professional for seeking help. You have the power to gather their family and friends and see if you people can do something to save their life. You can also gather social support to make them feel loved, and that the situation they are in is actually handleable. Please intervene if you think that somebody is contemplating suicide. You can ask them upfront, are you thinking about it? Is it coming in your mind? Do you think that this might be a possibility? And there are very high chances that the other person who's thinking about it will say yes to you if they are actually thinking about it. But if they are not thinking about it, there are no chances that you might actually give them the idea of doing it, or they might get the idea and actually go about it. So please intervene, because that is a way in which it is actually possible to save a life. The other very commonly talked about myth is that suicide is not preventable. It cannot be stopped. Well, this is also not true. Somebody who's contemplating suicide actually does it for some duration of time, and at that time, if you or somebody is able to stop them and give them the help that they need and they deserve, then actually at that time it can be stopped. There are a lot of people who have contemplated about it in the past or even made a few attempts, but they got the help at the right time, and today they are living a very happy life. So it can be understood that suicide is completely preventable, but of course it is important to take professional help. Do not hesitate to take the other person or go yourself to a psychologist or a psychiatrist and seek help for your thoughts. As I said earlier, it is a consequence of a long-term problem or a mental illness. And yes, with the professional help and with the kind of social support from your friends and family, it can be stopped, and the situation which is looking like completely doomed to you, it can be made better. Another common statement related to suicide that I have heard very often is when somebody actually dies by suicide or completes it, is that the family members failed to provide that kind of an environment or save a life. Well, this is also not true. If somebody is contemplating it, until and unless asked about it directly, there are very low chances that the person might actually go about and tell their family member that this is something I'm contemplating. And often we ignore these hints. We ignore statements like this and we say, ऐसे मत सोचो, इन चीज़ों से कुछ होता है क्या? But we do not give them the proper needed help and guidance for it. And one day we see that the person has been able to complete it. And then we blame the family members and the friends and the spouses and the siblings that they were not able to save the person. There are very high chances that a person who's living with a mental health condition like even depression, the family members are not aware of it. These are very personal experiences, and we as lay people often end up ignoring the signs and symptoms of conditions like depression, of conditions like anxiety, and we are not able to see the signs. But it is not a failure of the family members or the people living with or close to the person who has died by suicide. We do not need to blame anybody. We only need to keep our eyes open and our minds open, so that if somebody contemplates it in the future, we are able to get the signs of it and we at least make an attempt to save a life. People often do not talk about suicide. There's even a stigma attached to the conversations related to suicide. We talk about suicide whenever there's World Suicide Prevention Day or we see some actor who has died by suicide. But conversations like this need to be held in our households every single day, so that we tell all our family members and our children that it is okay to talk about your mental health conditions. It is okay to talk about the issues that you are suffering with. And suicide is something which can be talked about. It is something that can be prevented. It is a conversation which we need to do every day in our houses and every day with the people we know and we love, because conversations like this actually have the power to save not just one but so many lives. Thank you so much for watching this, and do not forget to like and subscribe so that you get to see more videos like this.